Hi, my name is Tristan, and today we are starting the first episode of our brand new podcast. Up next, we have,
Ethan McMahon.
following him is,
Nicholas Biancolin.
and to close it off, we have
David Amal.
us four students at Chaminade College School in Toronto, Ontario. And we just felt that we have a lot to say about certain topics, especially regarding the works that we have done and covered in courses, not just our English course, but throughout our grade 12 high school year. And we figured what better way to show them off than in a podcast we can discuss, and maybe others can find something from what we have discussed. So our first point we're going to talk about is Hamlet. Obviously, Hamlet is a work by Shakespeare. A bit of backstory we'll go into here. Shakespeare, born in 1600s England, wasn't really famous when he was alive for his plays. It's after he died that they hit basically a new level of popularity that we still study to this day. I think one of the things that makes them so great and something why we still study them is that their messages still live on to this day, or the themes are still relevant today. Hamlet, we all have different interpretations of Hamlet. I think it's a good place to start off. I think, Ethan, do you want to talk about something big you've got from Hamlet?
Yeah, what I got from Hamlet is it's very much a story of sort of Hamlet's downfall and trying to get the revenge from his father. Because, like, as we all know, I'm just gonna do a quick summary here, but basically what happens before the play is Hamlet's uncle Claudius kills Hamlet's father, Hamlet Senior, and then Claudius marries Hamlet's mother and becomes the king, and so there's this whole feud. And Hamlet just sort of spirals into this massive hole of depression. And so the whole play is just sort of him continuing to spiral down and sort of bring everyone else down into this like just obsession with death that eventually ends in just the absolute death of really everyone, which is a horrible fate. But because of that, we learn a lot from the play that it's very important to sort of stay positive and obviously not murder your, brother. That's pretty big. So yeah, I thought that the play was very much like obsessed with death, and it very much covered like Hamlet's downfall from his loss of hope in life. What did you think about it, Nicholas?
Interesting play, very interesting play. I think it really begs an interesting question, right? Because the big topic I think we had written down for today was heroism, which we haven't gotten into yet. But Ethan's summary was really great. It reminded me of an important point about Hamlet, which is something that we all think about, they'll have very different opinions on. And it's whether or not Hamlet is really a hero, right? Now that depends on how you define hero, right? Because you can define hero in many different ways. But really, is he a hero? He's a guy who lost his mind, murdered a bunch of people, had mental warfare with his uncle, this Inception level mind games they're playing with each other. Is he a hero? People are like, oh, he's a tragic, what's his name? Tragic Aristotle hero. And it's like, is he a hero?
He's a pure loser. Like, come on.
Yeah,
look at this play.
Yeah, is he a hero or a depressed lunatic? You tell me. Who knows? Tristan, though, I know Tristan has some strong opinions about that. And unleash the hounds, my friend. Let's hear it.
I think we first have to define what a hero is. And I think obviously that is subjective to every person, because a hero is more than just someone you see in a movie. A hero is someone that can be real, right? There's no denying that there have been heroes in history. That is something we can all agree on, right? But what qualities do they have, and do we all see heroes the same way, is something I think Hamlet really takes into question. Hamlet, his intentions are not honorable. He's on a quest for revenge. He murders Claudius, and he murders the son. I forget the son's name. Laertes.
Mm-hmm.
And he even causes Ophelia to kill herself. And I think these are not actions of a hero. We can all agree on that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Murdering people is without just causes, especially not anything moral. Now, I do think Hamlet has some heroic actions. I don't know if he's a hero. That in itself is hard to assess. But Claudius is not a great person. Claudius is extremely terrible. He murdered his own brother, the king as well. And he married his wife. he also attempts to kill his nephew or son-in-law as the play progresses, right? They get married. And killing him is obviously, it's not moral, but Claudius isn't a good person. And killing him does result, obviously, in a better quality of life, maybe, right? I just don't know if that justifies Hamlet as a hero. I think it can be construed as a heroic action, but I don't know if it makes him a hero, but I know he's not the villain that people may say, or he's not just someone who has no morals or intentions at all. I think that can be taken from the play. I just don't know if he is a true hero. David, we haven't given you a chance to speak. Sorry.
Okay.
I think you should weigh in here on what a hero means to you and whether Hamlet is a hero, whether he's not, whether he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
Floor is yours.
Okay. I think because we're all obsessed with this, is he a hero or not? I think the product of that obsession, whether to designate him as a hero or not, is kind of not, it's not good, maybe, because we're so obsessed with, is he a hero? Is he not a hero? We're so obsessed with putting him into this class of hero or not, when really he's a human being, right? And I don't think you can classify someone, because human beings are complicated. I know I'm complicated. I know everyone in this, like, everyone in the world is complicated. They're made of many different parts, right? I think trying to classify someone as a hero, either like trying to classify someone as 100% hero is like trying to shield them from criticism, or like, because no one is 100% hero. But also trying to say, oh, they're 100% villain is also not good, because, well, a lot of people do really bad things. So like, humans are complicated, right? And so just because you can do bad things doesn't mean you can also do good things. There's multiple aspects to like to a personality and to like your actions and everything. And sure, you can take like the whole, like, what are the ultimate outcomes? Like, do you put more good into the world or bad, right? Like that, you can say that is that the measure of either you're good or you're bad. But sometimes those actions, like, sure, technically, if I killed every single murderer on the planet, right, would I be putting more good in the world? Sure, yeah. Would that also be wrong? 100%. Because while I am killing bad people, I am killing them indiscriminately. I'm not giving them due process, not giving them justice, not getting, I'm not doing any of that, right? I feel like that's essential to a healthy society. And so I don't think trying to classify him as a hero or not is necessary to analyze the play, I guess. In my personal opinion, like if we're just going off my personal opinion, I don't think he's a hero. But then again, that's a tricky distinction because everyone's definition of hero is different.
Mm-hmm.
No, I especially like the point you made where you say basically Hamlet's a human being. It's so hard to classify someone as hero or villain, right? We all flawed. I think there are certain people throughout history who have been heroes, who have been champions for the people. I think a perfect example of that is Martin Luther King, right? There's no denying what he did was right, and he went about it peacefully. He went about it in a way that caused change, in a way that impacted so many people. And I think that is, to some degree, we can all agree he was a hero, right? And I think that's why we see these great figures that we appreciate, and we think of them so highly that it makes it hard to compare to other people, right? It's hard to compare Hamlet to someone like Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King was just so righteous in what he did, right? And Hamlet is so very human, but that's what calls to us about the play, right? It's those flaws that make it to some degree somewhat relatable. Granted, we'll never be the prince. I doubt any of us will have to kill our uncle. But there is something about that desire for revenge that takes control of us, that causes us to go to these extremes, that I think can be related to many people, right? I think that's why people still analyze this play to this day, right? And to Ethan's point, it also, the death, it captures our attention. It captivates us in a way that you combine the death, but you also combine the humanity of the characters, and you get Hamlet. And there's no denying that in what it is an important work of literature, right? And obviously, I think it's really important because it brings these questions to the table, and there is no right or wrong answer, right? Like, you don't have to agree whether Hamlet's a hero or not, but you just have to agree that Hamlet was a character. Hamlet was important. Hamlet poses all these questions, and that's why it'll still always remain to some degree prevalent in discussions or just in theory, right? Do you guys have anything else you want to bring on the story on the topic of heroes?
I think we should talk about Ophelia, because like when you just sort of look at her story, obviously her whole life is sort of run by the men in the play, by Polonius, by her brother. I mean, there's that scene in Act 1, I think it was scene 3, where Laertes and both Polonius are like, you got to stay away from Hamlet, you got to protect yourself, this and that. Eventually it carries on throughout the play, causing her to be harassed by Hamlet. Then they start using Ophelia to spy on Hamlet, so she's more of like a pawn in chess than an actual character in the play. And we see that because in Act 4 she goes absolutely insane when Polonius is killed by Hamlet, and then she kills herself, right? But it's so ironic, and this is what I wrote about in my essay, that when you look at the way her death is in the play, they really talk about Gertrude talks about how she it was very beautiful death, I have to say. Obviously dying is not nice, but like, the play says that she made lots of beautiful wreath flowers, and she was dressed beautifully. She was in this magnificent garden, and then in the end she drowned. She died on purpose, like by suicide. So it's very they contrast each other because it's such a beautiful setting with like the darkest possible thing. So I think that like when we look at Ophelia, I think we could sort of use her death and her story to sort of judge whether Hamlet is a hero or not. Because in Act 5, we learn that Hamlet loved Ophelia. Now that's a different topic, whether he truly loved her or not. But like the question is, like, if that's what Hamlet's actions led Ophelia to do that, then can we judge Hamlet a hero based on just that specific scenario of Ophelia? So like, what do you guys think? Do you think like based on Ophelia's story caused by Hamlet's actions, do you think that we could judge Hamlet as a hero or not?
I mean, for me personally, I'll go first. You guys, I think definitely you can judge Hamlet on the effects he has on others, because like a lot of the stuff he does in the play, like it like has poor, like it negatively, like it actually harms people. Like when he killed Polonius, like that's wrong. Or when like he like how he drove like he like played with Ophelia like she was a pawn, like that's wrong. Or when what is it? Like he like his weird relationship with his mother, that was a whole thing I don't even want to get into. But like a lot of the stuff that he does in the play is like not good, right? Like he does try to, I guess, harm the people around him, and he does it on purpose, right? But like there's the whole argument to be made where it's like, sure, he harms the people around him, but he's trying to achieve a greater good, I guess. But I feel like in this play specifically, because he's mad at his Claudius, and he's mad at his mother for like getting together, right? And he's trying to kill Claudius because Claudius killed his father, right? And there's a whole thing of, oh, do two wrongs don't make it right. Well, I agree with that in theory, but I think sometimes like people do something bad, they should be like maybe not punished, but they should like retribute for it. Like they should like, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but they should maybe like do time. I mean, I don't know if that's the right word, but they should at least improve on themselves. They shouldn't be allowed to just do something bad and then get away with it, right? And Hamlet's trying to like dole out this vigilante justice, and I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's the right move in this play. And I think the way he negatively affects other people, like it definitely plays into how I judge his character.
I'm gonna go really quick, and then I'll pass it over to Gina because I know you want to talk. I just because I can briefly pose this into two questions, right? For you, just from what Ethan and David have said, because they both made really good points. Ethan talks about the results of your actions, your impact, kind of similar to the butterfly effect, right? Your choices have an impact on those around you, and how much of that can we truly judge a character by? It's a question that that's still important to this day, because everyone still makes choices, hard choices, easy choices to this day, and they all have impacts on those around us. And how do those judge how we see others, right? Those choices you make they can hurt others, and they can truly devastate some people's lives. And it's how, if you know this, does that make you a good person? Does that make you a bad person, more specifically? And then to David's point, do the ends justify the means, right? Because obviously Claudius is not a good person. But and killing him is obviously, or getting him to face some sort of punishment is obviously the end goal. Does Hamlet go about in the right way? Does his goal of getting rid of a terrible person, does that justify killing these people? I think those are two questions we gotta ask, Nick. Do the ends justify the means? And what the impact of your actions? How much do you have to pay, and do you have to be judged by for them?
Yeah, so I'll tackle them one at a time there. So how much accountability do we have for our actions is really interesting to think about, right? Because usually we have all accountability for our actions because they're our actions. We are in control of ourselves all the time, right? There's no denying that fact, right? But the question is, at what point do our actions affecting others, affecting others, affecting others? At what point does it pass like a statute of limitations where it's like, this is just like a massive ripple, right? In Hamlet's case, it's essentially all directly from him, right? You can see him descending into madness, him going crazy, and then who is it? I think it's Claudius that orders Ophelia to break up with him, or is it?
Polonius. Yeah.
They both make it right. Right. So that's not the reason Hamlet went mad. We know why Hamlet went mad, but I don't think that helps with his madness, right? It didn't help with Ophelia's madness either. Right. So Hamlet, when he's going around in this I was gonna say pissy mood, this depressed mood that he's all, my dad's dead, his ghost came back and haunted me, now I'm pissed. And then his girlfriend breaks up with him and he's like, well, that sucks. And at that point, he's just making some bad choices. Is he accountable for those choices? Yes. Was he under some certain influence from his emotions? Yes. But at the end of the day, he's still responsible for these actions, right? Like he's responsible for the death of Polonius directly, killed him. Responsible for the death of Laertes, killed him. Responsible for the death of not Gertrude, responsible for the death of Claudius. Definitely killed Claudius, right? So those three, definitely his fault, could have been avoided by Polonius could have avoided by just talking. Stab him through the rug, just like that one could have been avoided. Laertes is a bit iffy. And then Claudius is his end goal, which segues right into the second point of does the end justify the means? And I remember this question first posed by our grade 10 English teacher back in when we were reading Othello 2 years ago, which is saying, does the end justify the means? And that's a very tough question to ask because the end is what justifies the means, right? Depending on the end, like if your end goal is some truly cathartic moment, like Hamlet's, right? It's avenging his dead dad by killing his uncle, right? And that's a massive end goal because it's huge, right? But does it justify killing 2 other people and indirectly killing 2 others, right? Because Hamlet's madness,
causing the downfall of Denmark as well, like the end of the plans with Fortinbras taking over Denmark. So
yeah, there's a whole subplot with Fortinbras as well, which is we won't touch on that there because I don't remember that too much. But there's that whole other subplot, right? It's just the end is usually what justifies the means, right? But then again, we are usually not. Our end is not usually avenging our dead father because our uncle killed him and married our mother, right? That's crazy. I'm just saying that, right? Our ends are smaller things, like I want to get with that girl or guy, or I want to be a good musician. I want to get into an Ivy League school or some goal like that, right? And so in that case, our means are not murdering 4 and 5 people, right? They're doing things like working harder. I mean, I guess in the school sense, you wouldn't really you wouldn't drag your schoolmates down when you're studying. That's kind of tricky to do, right? But like even still, does Hamlet? I went all over the place here. I'm sorry, but does Hamlet's end justify his means? I don't think so. I think there's if Hamlet had to kill, you could maybe excuse one of those deaths. Like, one of those extra deaths, you could have said maybe it's just par for the course because just of the sheer magnitude of this end that he's trying to attain, right? But the amount of death and the amount of chaos and paranoia and just overall unpleasantness that Hamlet has created with everyone he surrounds, it doesn't justify his means. The means are definitely not justified by the end, especially because the end goal is a very self-centered one. Like if his end goal was like, I am going to put a better king in place because Claudius is a bad king. Like maybe you could get behind that. But no, his goal is he doesn't want Claudius boning his mom. No, I can't say that. He doesn't want, I'm sorry, we got to cut that. We can't say that. He doesn't want Claudius marrying his mom and killing his uncle. And rightfully so. That's a lot. A human would be, like a regular person would be kind of annoyed at that, right? You can't blame him for being annoyed and wanting revenge, but you can certainly blame him for murdering 5 people indirectly, right? So yeah, no.
Yeah. And I think that it's like you said, his means to get justice for his father by taking revenge on his uncle, like the ends do not just justify that, because he causes the downfall of the royal family. He causes the downfall of just the country of Denmark, because the subplot, Fortinbras takes over at the end. Everyone basically dies. That's the main character. And it's all just because, it's like you just said, like all of the horrible stuff that's happened to him. And while that is just absolutely insanely horrible, you can't just go around killing people and indirectly killing people and, causing this much death. And you see it himself. It's not even like he's trying to do it on purpose, right? He's playing the mental games with his mother and with his father and with Claudius, his stepdad, right? And because you see it, like, for example, in Act 3 when he's at the play, right? He's playing the mental games with Ophelia and Gertrude. He's saying, this is this is more beautiful over here. I'm going to sit beside her. And he's like trying to see if Claudius is actually guilty, right? And then the next scene after that, he goes to his mother's room and they have this whole feud, and he starts calling her just some horrible things, which, technically she is because of what she's done. But it's not her fault, right? She's been seduced to do those things, right? And so you just look at the ends of all this destruction and death, and it just doesn't justify the means, because he really tried to do that on purpose. His obsession with death, his obsession with destruction, trying to, like, cause everyone to suffer, that's what happened. And that I just don't think that was right. If his only goal was to get revenge on his uncle, you don't need to cause the entire downfall of a country, right? Like keep it to, like, your goal. You know what I'm saying?
I'm of the mindset that I don't know.
No, go. Come on. We know what you want to say. Just say it.
I think there are certain scenarios that where the ends do justify the means. And I think in this scenario, given the nature of this situation, I think there is a case to be made. I don't know if I'm sold on the case, but there's no denying that King Claudius, right, is a morally corrupt human being, right? We can agree on that foundational principle, right? And I feel that when it comes to revenge, there is no proper way to go about it, or there's no proper way to fulfill your revenge if that is your end goal, right? Because at the end of the day, someone will be hurt. That is why you can fulfill it, but there will never be that truly happy ending, because someone gets hurt, right? And ultimately, they do not face a fair punishment, right? Because you are taking that into your own hands. Now, in the case of Hamlet, Claudius murders your father. He is sleeping with your mom, and they are married now. And everything just kind of falls apart. And you find out through the ghost of your dad that your uncle and your mom were complicit in this act. And I feel like there is a case to be made that Claudius is a terrible person and needs to be removed from the seat of power, right? In this case, the throne. And that is what Hamlet's going for. He's not going for, right? He's not doing it to make Denmark a better place. He's doing it to feel revenge, but it still doesn't mean that there isn't that bonus, or there aren't those bonus points because Claudius is a terrible person. That still has to be taken into account, right? Because if you ignore the fact that Claudius is a terrible person, then obviously it's going to be terrible, right? Because you're looking at what he does. But Claudius is very corrupt in what he does. Polonius is not a great father. I don't think he deserved to die like that, but there's no denying that he wasn't a great father to his kids, right? He spies on his son, and he basically treats his daughter, like, to Ethan's point, she's just a pawn, right? She's just used for his own political motivations. But yeah, I think there are certain cases where the ends justify the means, and there's definitely a case to be made in Hamlet that the ends do justify the means. Well, I think this discussion on Hamlet has been really productive. We definitely discussed a lot of points and a lot of questions that I don't think you can ever truly have the answer to. But I think it's wonderful that we can discuss this with each other and try and come towards something. I hope anyone listening that you took something out of this, right? Hamlet is such a convoluted story, but it forces you to ask these questions that you probably will never know the answer to. And speaking on questions you'll never know the answer to, that brings us to our next episode. We're going to be talking about two plays. One is fantastically written, and I think we can all agree it is definitely a masterpiece.
Mhm.
The other is there is no denying that it is a play that people perform.
It's a piece of garbage.
Flaming garbage.
Oh,
Hey,
no,
we
it
haven't even
is.
gone into it, guys.
I think we all have, well, some of us have the same opinion, some of us have different opinions, but I think the play in itself is so important because it sparks that question, right? Granted, what's in it can be debated forever. And I think our next podcast episode will be delightful. Thank you all for listening. My name is Tristan. That's
Ethan?
we got,
Nicholas.
and finally,
David.
we're signing off on our Sean Pat podcast. Have a wonderful day, and yeah, take care.